Alright, so for my portion of the project, I will be covering an internal environment analysis as well as an external environment analysis for textbook brokers. I'm going to start my internal environment analysis with a SWOT and resource analysis. The SWOT will include the strengths and weaknesses of textbook brokers, and the resource analysis will include human resources like demographic and skill level of their employees and other higher decision makers. The physical buildings, so these are like buildings, office space, technology, and products that are tangibly owned by the company, as well as intellectual resources, which is intangibles like brand identity, reputation, and client engagement. This picture right here is the one of the buildings that Textbook Brokers has a retail space in near NPSU. So the strengths of Textbook Brokers are that they sell on multiple levels. Their consumers, they have consumers through retail locations near college campuses, as well as selling to retailers or e-commerce businesses like Amazon and Chegg. They also are turning their competitors into customers by doing this. So the end consumer is still satisfied, but everyone else is happy as well. Another strength is that they're able to combat high prices. Their prices are much more competitive than retailers like Phillips Bookstore, who really are not discount retailers at all. They tend to price them as high as they can. They also rent out textbooks rather than just selling them. And the average cost of rentals last year was $31, whereas digital purchases were around $120, and hard copy purchases are going to be more comparable to that than the cost of rentals. So rentals are a great way for everyone to save money, and this is one of the biggest strengths of textbook brokers. Some of the weaknesses that they have is their relationship with consumers isn't great. Students aren't happy about having to spend all this money on textbooks, so they're usually not satisfied with the price, no matter what. They do have a really great opportunity to market and engage online to improve this consumer relationship. This picture to the right of the text shows some sort of online promotional that Textbook Brokers does. They do lots of stuff like this through their social media outlets, and this is a great way for them to engage with customers. They also don't have as much control over costs as people think, and that's another weakness. And the adjustment towards digital products has also been slower, and I'll get more into that later. So the resource analysis of textbook brokers, the human resources, they are very integrated with college campuses and college students, so that's a great opportunity for recruitment. And they also have well-informed upper division decision makers who have good relationships with college professionals. And this is how textbooks and professors even decide on what textbooks are going to be assigned to students some of the times. And they also have intellectual property and intellectual resources. So they're recognized as cheaper alternatives. That's kind of their branding or their reputation. They have a reputation as a discount retailer, and that brings in more customers. And they're also known for having a lot of interaction and engagement with college campuses through social media promotions. For the final resource analysis, they do have some physical resources. These are the two locations near MTSU where I go to school. There's a wide range of products that are also sold, such as textbooks, apparel, and these are sold on multiple channels. Now I'm going to go on to the external environment analysis. So this is going to include the Porter's 5 forces analysis as well as a SWOT analysis. So for the Porter's 5 forces analysis, we do have the competitive rivalry. So many of their competitors are actually just retailers that they provide and supply to. So this is like Chegg and Amazon. They also have on-campus bookstores that they're competing with and digital suppliers, and that's going to be like Pearson or someone who provides access codes to students. Supplier power, so a lot of suppliers have complete control over the prices of digital products, which is a threat to textbook brokers. Hard copy rentals are also the price is not really as determined by textbook brokers, it's more determined by the market. And then buyer power, students, as we all know, do not have a whole lot of buyer power in this market, and they tend to focus on professors who are assigning the textbooks and college individuals. Another threat is substitution. So there's not that many retailers who are able to match prices of textbook brokers, but there are some substitutes like the bookstore, which is located extremely close to textbook brokers, and they're sometimes able to undercut textbook brokers, but they usually can at least match them. There's a lot of barriers to entry. Textbooks aren't really an easy market to get into. So, although it's possible, very few retailers are successful in implementing themselves into the market for textbooks and being a broker of textbooks. The SWOT analysis, so there's tons of opportunities for textbook brokers. Their target market is already predefined, so it's not difficult to find out who their customer needs to be. Building a strong local social media presence is a lot more effective because their target market is almost entirely includes students. So you can see over on the right, there's a online promotional. So they'll do stuff like this where they give out gift cards. It says Textbook Brokers Week of You're Welcome, Day 4. And here they have a $200 American Express gift card. So they do stuff like this every semester. I see it pretty commonly, and people will win stuff like that. They also sell apparel and school-related items and accessories so that students can feel really immersed in the culture of the college. There's also threats. So competitors are currently attempting to sell directly to campus decision makers. This means integrating the cost of digital textbooks into tuition, which would put textbook brokers out of business. It also means that students are going to be paying full price of their products, which is sometimes 4 times as much as they would pay for the rental. So this is not something that we want to do, and this is a possible solution that a couple of my group members will get into later on in the presentation. And there's also no control of the prices. That's another threat that textbook brokers faces. And there's also competition like Beat the Bookstore or Phillips Bookstore. So one of these focuses on competitive pricing and the other focuses on campus branding and convenience.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren, and today I'm going to be discussing the strategies for textbook brokers to help the transition from a off-campus provider to an on-campus curator for their textbooks and apparel. We have 2 different level strategies we're going to discuss today, which is business and corporate level. And for those, we've got 3 different strategies that we believe will work the best for them. For the business level, we think it will be cost leadership and market segmentation. And for corporate level, it is going to be related diversification. So we're going to start with our cost leadership, and the reason we think that cost leadership is going to be the best strategy for them is because they're already using it. They're already implementing this in their cheaper textbook options compared to, say, our bookstore on campus or Amazon, stuff like that. Even Pearson, because Pearson's crazy on their book prices. And even ebooks, like just a simple access code is really expensive. So Textbook Brokers already does a great job at being the cheaper option for textbooks and having rental options as well. I use rental options as much as I can because I don't want to have to deal with keeping the book. Having a rental, you bring it back and you don't have to worry about it again. It's cheaper because you can rent them new or used. It just kind of depends on the textbook broker selection. Same with their textbooks. So they still do a great job with their costs. They've been trying to keep their textbook expenses as low as they can since '97. When they opened, they understand how much of a burden buying textbooks can be for students. So that's why they offer these low costs, because they want to make sure that the students can get the materials that they need for their classes in order to continue their education. So we're going to start with and the next strategy is going to be market segmentation. And obviously their target market is college students in colleges, since they are a textbook bookstore. They are located in college towns, mainly near the college campus. We have 2 here in Murfreesboro, but I believe that in order to really get your entire market, that if them being on campus helps, because some people live on campus and there may be some students that do not have ways of transportation to get to textbook brokers and may not realize how much cheaper they are compared to the bookstore. So some of these kids just settle to go to the bookstore because it's convenient. So if textbook brokers was on campus, it would help. They would get more customers. And students would realize how much cheaper they actually are compared to the bookstore. And the next, and our last one is related diversification. We think this is going to be great for a corporate level because that way the firm can extend its resources and have a competitive advantage because they are cheaper at selling textbooks. They have started offering ebook options now, which is a big thing. Technology is skyrocketing, and most people nowadays don't want an actual book in hand. They'd rather have their tablet or their laptop, and it just makes it a lot more easier for students to use. So Textbook Brokers has started to implement the ebook option for purchase and for rent. So that is a great thing that I believe Textbook Brokers is offering because it is also cheaper than their competitors like Pearson. So they have started to offer this as well. So those were our 3 strategies that we think that does best for Textbook Brokers, and I will turn it over to someone else.
Strategic concerns. If Textbook Brokers were to move on campus, what could happen? Some concerns we came up with were competition, money, online access, some benefits, and some weaknesses. The main concern for Textbook Brokers would be how their competition is wanting to implement the cost of books with their tuition for school. Competitors also selling online copies of books and getting access codes to the students. Pearson VUE does an excellent job of getting access codes to students and strictly using the books for online only. And lastly, competition with the MTSU bookstore. It would be interesting to see how Textbook Brokers would survive and compete with the MTSU bookstore that has been there since MTSU has been open. Money. Would parents or students be willing to pay for more as a whole? Would parents or students have the option to choose what books the students needed for class? Or do you have to pay for all of the books for every single class? Would Textbook Brokers be able to financially compete with other companies? Since Textbook Brokers is such a cheap company, how would they compete on campus alongside the MTSU bookstore? Online access. Some students do not like having just online access. Some students like having hard copies, where they can write their notes and have the book on hand instead of on a computer screen. Amazon and Chegg are online, but they give the option to sell hard copy books to students for those who don't necessarily want online access only. Although these companies are pretty cheap, since they do give the option for both, students like choosing Amazon or Chegg rather than the actual MTSU bookstore. Benefits. Giving students the full power to decide what is best for them will ultimately be the goal for Textbook Brokers to meet. Make Textbook Brokers the only on-campus bookstore that is cheaper than the original bookstore on MTSU campus. Alongside benefits become some weaknesses. If they only sold online, would apparel be sold online too? If Textbook Brokers competition includes books with tuition, can Textbook Brokers compete with them while not having their books included with tuition? And lastly, online is just not for everyone. As mentioned before, not everyone likes having online access only. A lot of us like having hard copies, so would they be able to reach out to students who like both? Some recommendations. We believe although there are companies out there that do online access, Textbook Brokers is already cheap enough it may be beneficial to resort to all kinds of access for students. Textbook Brokers should keep their store to sell hard copies and apparel alongside having online access for those students who like online. Chegg and Amazon are broad items for books used by students not only who attend MTSU, whereas Textbook Brokers could offer discounts for being MTSU students ordering through them. That would keep MTS students steering clear of Amazon and Chegg and keep them strictly with Textbook Brokers.